Are you looking for a way to improve your focus, practice mindfulness, and find peace in a noisy world? This is a guide on how to be alone, not in loneliness, but in powerful solitude. If you feel constantly distracted, overwhelmed, or disconnected from yourself, stay with me. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how a simple digital detox and the practice of solitude can change your life from the inside out. There was a time when being alone was not considered strange. A person could sit by a window without checking a screen, walk down a street without headphones, wait in silence without reaching for distraction. Solitude was not an emergency. It was simply part of being human. But today, for many, even a few quiet minutes can feel uncomfortable. The moment the room becomes silent, we reach for the phone. Not because we need to, but because silence has started to feel unnatural. We have become more connected than ever, but less familiar with ourselves. We can fill every empty moment with sound, scrolling, and information, but somewhere in that constant connection, we may have lost one of the oldest human skills, the ability to be alone without feeling lost. This is about solitude as a human skill. The ability to step away from noise long enough to hear your own mind. The ability to be with yourself without needing to escape yourself. Because solitude is not just about being physically alone. It is about being internally available, and that is becoming rare. Most people today are not afraid of silence because it is dangerous. They are afraid of what silence reveals. When there is no distraction, we begin to hear the thoughts we have been avoiding. We notice the fatigue we have been ignoring. We feel the questions we have postponed. This is why solitude feels uncomfortable now. We have trained ourselves to respond to every inner discomfort with outer stimulation. A moment of boredom. Check the phone. A moment of sadness. Find a distraction. A moment of silence. Fill it immediately. The modern world has made interruption feel normal. So when interruption stops, we feel something is wrong. But often, nothing is wrong. We are simply meeting ourselves again. Solitude used to be woven naturally into ordinary life. People walked more, waited more, sat in quiet more. There were natural spaces between events. A letter took time to arrive. A journey took time to complete. The day had limits. Those spaces gave the mind room to digest life. But today, the spaces have been colonized. Waiting in line is no longer waiting. It is scrolling. Resting is no longer resting. It is consuming. Being alone is no longer being alone. It is being connected to thousands of voices at once. Many people are physically alone more than ever, but they are rarely in solitude. They are alone with screens, alone with feeds, alone with endless noise. This creates a strange condition. We are alone, but not with ourselves. The mind needs pauses. Not because it is weak, but because it is alive. It needs time to sort experience, recognize patterns, and understand feelings. Without solitude, the mind becomes crowded. Crowded with other people's opinions, unfinished reactions, and half-processed emotions. A crowded mind may still function, but beneath the surface, the person loses contact with their own center. They may no longer know what they actually think. This is one reason solitude matters. Solitude is where borrowed thoughts begin to separate from personal understanding. It is where you can ask, do I really believe this? Am I reacting, or am I seeing clearly? Is this my pace, or did the world impose it on me? These are not questions that usually appear in noise. They appear in quiet. If a person never spends time alone with their own thoughts, they become easier to direct from the outside. Without solitude, the inner life becomes reactive. But with solitude, something different becomes possible. You begin to notice before you react. You begin to feel without immediately escaping. You begin to recover your own rhythm. This does not mean you reject society. It means you stop being swallowed by it. The problem is that modern life often treats solitude as suspicious. If someone spends time alone, people may assume they are lonely or antisocial. Of course, isolation can be painful. Human beings need connection. But solitude and loneliness are not the same. Loneliness is the pain of unwanted disconnection. Solitude is the space of intentional presence. Loneliness says, I have no one. Solitude says, I am with myself for a while. Loneliness drains the spirit. Solitude can restore it. The goal is not to glorify being alone. The goal is to recover the ability to be alone well. Because if you cannot be alone well, you may begin to use other people as an escape from yourself. Relationships then become less about love and more about avoidance. You do not enter connection freely. You enter it desperately. No friend, partner, or audience can replace the work of being at home within yourself. Healthy connection is strengthened by healthy solitude. Because when a person can be alone without panic, they are less likely to cling, less likely to demand constant reassurance, less likely to confuse silence with rejection. Solitude gives relationships breathing room. It teaches a person that love does not require constant noise. This is especially important now because modern communication has changed our expectations. Messages arrive instantly. Replies are expected quickly. A delayed response can trigger fear. We have become used to constant access. But constant access is not the same as deep connection. Sometimes the people who step away return with more depth, more patience, and more love. Solitude helps restore that depth. But to recover it, we must understand why it has become difficult. One reason is overstimulation. The modern mind receives more input than it can meaningfully absorb. The nervous system begins to expect stimulation as the default state. So when stimulation drops, the body may interpret calm as emptiness. This is why silence can feel boring at first. The mind is not necessarily asking for what is good. It is asking for what it has been trained to expect. This is one of the great challenges of the present age. We have to relearn how to experience enough quiet, enough stillness, enough simplicity. Because if we lose the ability to experience enough, we will always need more content, more noise, more stimulation. And yet, more will not make us more grounded. It may only make us more restless. Another reason solitude feels uncomfortable is that it exposes emotional backlog. Many people are not only tired from what they are doing, they are tired from what they have not processed. Unspoken grief, unexamined disappointment, old regrets. As long as the day stays loud, these things remain in the background. But in solitude, they may rise. This is why people sometimes say, I do not like being alone with my thoughts. It often means the inner world has become a place of tension. But avoidance does not heal the inner world. It only postpones the meeting. A quiet moment may reveal that you are exhausted, that you are hurt, that you have been pretending to be fine. These realizations can be uncomfortable, but they can also be merciful. Because a life that never pauses may continue in the wrong direction for years. Solitude interrupts automatic living. It asks you to stop long enough to notice where you're going. So, what are we afraid would happen if we were silent for a while? Would we discover boredom, or grief, or truth? Would we hear the quiet voice of a life we have been postponing? This is why solitude is powerful. It does not shout. It removes the noise so that what is already present can finally be heard. There is another reason solitude has declined. We have become uncomfortable with boredom. Boredom used to be part of life. It was not always pleasant, but it was not useless either. Boredom created mental space. A child staring out a window might begin imagining. A quiet evening might become the birthplace of a decision, an insight, or a prayer. But today, boredom is treated like a malfunction. The moment we feel it, we medicate it with stimulation. This matters because boredom is often the doorway to deeper attention. The first layer of quiet may feel empty, but if you stay with it, something begins to change. The mind slows. The senses open. The world becomes more visible. You start noticing things that were always there. The sound of your breathing, the feeling of light in the room, the shape of your own thoughts. This is not dramatic, but it is human. Solitude invites us to simply be. That sounds simple, but for a distracted age, it may be one of the hardest skills to recover. Because being alone well requires a kind of inner friendship. You must stop treating yourself as someone to escape, This does not happen instantly. A person who has lived in noise for years cannot always enter silence peacefully on the first attempt. At first, solitude may feel restless, then awkward, then exposing, then slowly spacious. The key is not to force yourself into extreme isolation. The key is to rebuild tolerance for quiet in small, honest ways. Start with a walk without headphones, a few minutes in the morning before touching the phone, a meal without a screen, a quiet evening once in a while, a journal page written without needing to share it. These are not grand gestures. They are small acts of self-return. And over time, they restore the ability to hear your own life from the inside. One of the signs that solitude is healing you is that you begin to need less noise to feel okay. You do not need every silence filled. You do not need every thought validated. You can hold some things quietly. That is a lost human skill. In a world that encourages constant expression, there is power in private reflection. Not everything needs to be announced. Some things grow better in silence. When people are constantly presenting themselves online, they may begin to lose contact with who they are when no one is watching. If every experience is filtered through the question, "How will this look?" then the person gradually stops asking, "What does this mean?" Solitude restores that question. It brings life back from display into depth. It reminds us that we are not only profiles or public images, we are inner beings. To live without solitude is to risk becoming a stranger to your own interior life. And once you become a stranger to yourself, the world can name you more easily. It can tell you what to want, what to fear, what to believe. But solitude asks, who are you when the world is not instructing you? That question matters. This does not mean every quiet thought is wise. Solitude can also expose confusion and fear. It is not a replacement for human care, but it is a necessary part of becoming whole. Because there are some choices no one else can make for you. Some truths no crowd can discover on your behalf. At some point, every human being must learn to sit with life directly, without endless commentary, without immediate escape. This is not easy, but it is deeply freeing. Because when solitude becomes less frightening, the whole world becomes less controlling. You can be alone without feeling abandoned. You can be quiet without feeling empty. You can be offline without feeling erased. This is a kind of freedom that modern life rarely teaches. It is the freedom not to be controlled by the need for constant distraction. And once you begin to taste that freedom, solitude changes. It is no longer punishment. It becomes shelter, a place where the mind can breathe, where the heart can settle, where the noise of the world loses some of its power. In solitude, you may discover that your life has been speaking to you all along. You were just too surrounded to hear it. We recover this lost skill by creating small, protected spaces where the self is not constantly interrupted. A few quiet minutes at the beginning of the day, a walk with no input, a notebook instead of a feed, a pause before reacting, a boundary around your attention. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. That is expected. You are not failing. You are detoxing from constant input. The silence may feel empty because your mind has forgotten how full quiet can become. Stay with it gently. Just return. Again and again. Return to your breath. Return to the room. Return to the question beneath the noise. What kind of person am I becoming? That question needs solitude. The person who cannot be alone is always at risk of being carried away by whatever is loudest. But the person who can be alone has a place to return. A quiet inner room, a center, a self not entirely owned by the world. And maybe that is what many people are missing today. Not more content, not more noise, but a place within themselves that is not constantly invaded. Solitude is the art of protecting that place. And once we recover it, we may discover that silence was never empty. It was waiting for us. So the next time you find yourself alone, before reaching for the nearest distraction, pause for a moment. Let the silence arrive. You do not have to solve your whole life in that moment. You only have to stop running from yourself. Because sometimes the most important conversation you need to have is not with the world. It is with the person you have been carrying all along, and that person has been waiting quietly. for your return. If this reflection on solitude resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more content that helps you find clarity in a noisy world. Now, I invite you to try something. For the next 3 minutes, just sit in silence. No phone, no music, just you and your thoughts. After you've done it, come back and share your experience in the comments. What did you notice? How did it feel? Your journey could inspire someone else. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video, where we'll explore the difference between deep work and busy work.